The morning everything changed. I was reviewing final testing data in my office at Meridian Technologies. My coffee had long gone cold, forgotten amid the excitement of what these numbers meant. After 3 years of research, countless sleepless nights, and more failures than I cared to count, Project Aurora was finally complete. I'm Dr. Alexandra Morgan, though most people at Meridian just called me Alex. For the past 5 years, I'd led their research division, specializing in quantum computing applications. But Aurora was different. It wasn't just another project, it was revolutionary. A breakthrough in quantum encryption that could transform digital security as we knew it. The knock on my door came at exactly 9:17 a.m. Marcus Sterling, my direct supervisor and Meridian's chief innovation officer, didn't wait for my response before striding in. His expensive suit seemed at odds with our usually casual research department, and the smile on his face didn't reach his eyes. "Alex," he said, voice dripping with false warmth. "Just the person I wanted to see. How's the morning treating you?" I gestured to my screen, unable to contain my excitement despite his odd demeanor. The final tests exceeded all expectations. The encryption protocol is stable, scalable, and excellent. He cut me off, settling into the chair across from my desk. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. The board is thrilled with the preliminary results. Something in his tone made me pause. Marcus had never shown much interest in the technical details of Aurora before. In fact, he'd spent the past year trying to convince the board to cut its funding, arguing it was too theoretical, too risky. "They're already talking partnerships," he continued, examining his cufflinks. "Tech giants, government contracts. This could be worth billions." "That's wonderful," I said carefully. "I've prepared a comprehensive presentation for next week's investor meeting. There are some key technical considerations we should." About that, Marcus interrupted again, finally meeting my eyes. "There's been a change of plans. The board feels we need a different approach for the commercial phase. Something more corporate." My stomach tightened. I'd seen this before. Brilliant researchers pushed aside once their work showed promise, replaced by sleek executives who knew how to work a boardroom. "I don't understand," I said, though part of me already did. "This is my project. I designed the core algorithms, built the team." "Was your project," Marcus corrected, his fake smile finally dropping. "Effective immediately, you're being terminated from your position at Meridian Technologies." The words hit like a physical blow, but I forced myself to stay calm. "On what grounds?" He slid a document across my desk. "Restructuring. Your research role is being eliminated in favor of a more commercial focus. You'll receive 3 months severance, standard NDA, non-compete, the usual." I picked up the paper, scanning it without really reading. My mind was already racing ahead, connecting dots I should have seen months ago. The sudden interest in Aurora's progress, the new lawyers appearing on our floor, Marcus's increasing questions about documentation. "The security team will escort you out," he said, standing. "Don't bother with the presentation materials. We'll handle everything from here." I looked up at him then, and something in my expression made him falter slightly. "Of course," I said softly. "I understand completely." His eyes narrowed at my calm. He'd expected tears, protests, maybe even begging. Instead, I simply began packing my personal items into a box. "I'll need your security badge and laptop," he added, trying to regain his superior tone. I handed them over without comment. He didn't know about my personal laptop at home. the one where I'd documented every step of Aurora's development. He didn't know about the patent application I'd quietly filed 6 months ago, when I first noticed him taking unusual interest in my progress reports. Most importantly, he didn't know that I'd designed Aurora's core architecture to be dependent on a master key, one that existed only in my mind. As security walked me to my car, I caught glimpses of my team through the glass walls. Maria, my lead developer, looked close to tears. James from Quantum Systems was arguing with his supervisor. They were good people, brilliant scientists. I hoped they'd forgive me for what was coming. I drove home in a daze, the box of belongings in my passenger seat feeling impossibly light for 5 years of work. But as I pulled into my driveway, a strange sense of calm settled over me. Marcus thought he'd won, thought he'd secured Aurora for Meridian's profit. He had no idea he'd just started a chain of events that would shake the entire industry. My phone buzzed, a text from Maria. "This isn't right. Tell me you have a plan." I smiled, thinking of the patent documents safely filed with the USPTO, the backup drives hidden in my home safe, and the fundamental flaw in Marcus's understanding of how Aurora actually worked. "Don't worry," I texted back. "Everything's going exactly as it should." That evening, I sat in my home office, surrounded by years of research notes and development logs. On my screen, a notification blinked. Patent application status. Processing complete. I took a sip of wine and began composing an email to my patent attorney. Marcus wanted to play corporate chess? Fine. But he was about to learn that in this game, the queen was the most powerful piece on the board. Tomorrow, Meridian would start their grand plans to monetize Aurora. Next week, they'd discover exactly who owned the rights to the technology. And in between, well, that's when things would get really interesting. The morning after my termination, I woke to 17 missed calls and an inbox full of urgent messages. Not from Meridian's HR or Marcus, those would come later. These were from tech journalists, industry analysts, and most interestingly, Meridian's top competitors. Word travels fast in quantum computing circles. By 8 a.m., 3 different news outlets had run stories about my surprise departure from Meridian, each speculating about the timing. After all, firing your head researcher right after a major breakthrough wasn't exactly subtle. I ignored them all and made coffee, watching the sunrise from my kitchen window, the calm before the storm. My phone buzzed again, this time a message from Dr. Catherine Zhang, CEO of Quantum Dynamics, Meridian's biggest rival. Heard the news. Let's talk. Lunch today? I smiled, remembering the last time Catherine and I had spoken, at a conference where Marcus had tried to take credit for my preliminary research. She'd seen right through him. I typed back a simple, "When and where?" At exactly 10:47 a.m., the first sign of panic appeared at Meridian. Maria texted, "Emergency all-hands meeting in 15 minutes. Marcus looks like he's seen a ghost." I could picture it perfectly. They'd probably tried to access Aurora's core systems that morning, ready to begin the commercialization process. Instead, they'd found themselves locked out of key components, facing encryption protocols they didn't understand. My phone rang. Meridian's main office number. I let it go to voicemail. "Dr. Morgan." Marcus's voice tried to sound authoritative, but couldn't hide the strain. "There seems to be some confusion with the Aurora documentation. Call me immediately." I deleted the message and got dressed for lunch. Dark blue suit, silver earrings, the confidence of someone who knew exactly what cards they held. Catherine was waiting at Vincenzo's, an upscale Italian place downtown. She stood to greet me, her handshake firm. Alex, you have no idea how long I've wanted to have this conversation. We ordered wine, a good Bordeaux, and waited for the waiter to leave before diving in. So, she said, studying me over her glass. Want to tell me why Meridian stock dropped 8% this morning? I took a sip of wine. Probably the same reason Marcus Sterling has left me 6 voicemails in the past hour. She smiled, sharp and knowing. They can't access the full system, can they? They can access what they need to make basic demonstrations, I replied carefully. Enough to show investors something shiny. But the real architecture, the core innovations, I shrugged. That's a bit more complicated. Catherine leaned forward. You filed a patent. It wasn't a question. I nodded once. Personal filing or through Meridian? Personal. 6 months ago. She sat back, eyes gleaming. And let me guess, it covers the foundational technology, not just the surface-level applications Meridian's been bragging about. The entire quantum encryption framework, I confirmed. Every essential component. Oh, this is better than I hoped. Catherine almost laughed. They have no idea, do they, about any of it. Marcus Sterling thinks technology is something you buy and sell like stocks, I said, cutting into my salmon. He never bothered to understand how Aurora actually works. He just saw dollar signs. And now he's discovering that firing the person who built your miracle product might not have been the smartest move. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Maria. They can't stabilize the quantum state. Everything's degrading. Marcus just threw his laptop. Catherine noticed my smile. Problems at the office? Let's just say their demo for the board next week might not go as planned. She nodded thoughtfully. You know they'll try to fight the patent. Claim it was developed under their roof, using their resources. They can try, I agreed. But I did most of the core development at home, on my own time. I have documentation going back 3 years. Every test, every failure, every breakthrough, all time-stamped and witnessed. Smart girl, Catherine murmured. So what's your play here? Obviously you didn't invite me to lunch just to gloat. I met her eyes steadily. I want to build Aurora the right way. Not as a corporate cash grab, but as something that could genuinely advance the field. I have the patents, the knowledge, and a team that would follow me in a heartbeat. What I need is infrastructure, she finished. Labs, equipment, resources. Exactly. She studied me for a long moment. You know, I tried to hire you 3 years ago, offered you double what Meridian was paying. I was loyal to the project, I said simply. Not anymore. Catherine pulled out her phone, typed something quickly. Check your email in an hour. I think you'll find our current offer more interesting, especially the equity package. Just then, my phone lit up with a new message. Not from Meridian this time, but from my patent attorney. Call immediately. Meridian's lawyers trying to file an emergency injunction. I smiled. Right on schedule. Problems? Catherine asked, noting my expression. No, I said, standing to leave. Just the next phase beginning. Thank you for lunch, Catherine. I look forward to your email. As I walked to my car, another call from Marcus came through. This time, I answered. Where is it? He demanded, skipping any pretense of politeness. Where's what, Marcus? The master key? The core protocols. Don't play games, Alexandra. The board presentation is in 5 days. We have investors flying in from 3 continents. I could hear the panic in his voice, the dawning realization that he'd miscalculated badly. "Sounds stressful," I said calmly. "Have you checked the patent office records? I hear there are some interesting new filings in quantum encryption." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Then, you didn't. Goodbye, Marcus. Good luck with the presentation." I hung up and drove home, feeling lighter than I had in months. By the time I reached my house, 3 more messages had arrived. From Maria. "Half the dev team just put in their 2 weeks' notice. Is this part of the plan?" From my patent attorney. "Meridian filing multiple challenges." They seemed desperate. All bases covered on our end. This could get interesting. And finally, from Catherine. "Offer sent. Corner office, full lab, your pick of staff, and enough resources to make Meridian look like a high school science club. Plus a few surprises. Call me when you're ready to change the world." I poured myself a glass of wine and settled into my home office. On my screen, financial news tickers showed Meridian's stock continuing to slide. Analysts were starting to ask questions about Aurora's viability. Internal emails leaked by nervous employees hinted at technical problems. And in 5 days, Marcus would have to stand in front of the board and explain why their billion-dollar quantum encryption system was essentially worthless without its creator. I opened my laptop and began composing emails to my former team members. It was time to show them what Aurora could really do, not as a corporate asset, but as a revolution in quantum computing. The pieces were falling into place perfectly, but the real game was just beginning, and I had a feeling Marcus's panic was going to get much, much worse. The morning of Meridian's board presentation dawned clear and cold. I sat in Catherine's office at Quantum Dynamics, watching the sunrise paint the city's skyline in shades of gold. In 5 hours, Marcus would face the board, investors, and tech journalists to showcase Aurora's capabilities. Or at least, he would try. "Nervous?" Catherine asked, handing me a coffee. I shook my head, just ready for this to be over. My phone buzzed. Another update from Maria, who'd given notice at Meridian, but stayed just long enough to witness today's fallout. "Complete chaos here. Marcus has been rehearsing all night. They still can't stabilize the quantum states for more than 30 seconds. He's going to try to bluff through it." Over the past 5 days, Meridian's carefully constructed facade had crumbled piece by piece. First, their legal challenge to my patent had been rejected. My documentation was too thorough, my independent development too well proven. Then their attempts to recreate Aurora's core architecture had failed spectacularly, exposing just how little they understood about the system they claimed to control. But the real blow came yesterday when the tech press got hold of a story that would run this morning, just hours before the presentation. I pulled it up on my tablet. QULNTUM COMPUTING UREAKTHROUGH PATENTDSPUT reveals MERIDIAN technology DOE and Alluvian revolutionary ENCRYPTION Celestum. The article detailed everything: my firing, the patent filing, and most damaging of all, quotes from anonymous Meridian employees about Marcus's pattern of taking credit for others' innovations. "Your timing is impressive," Catherine observed, reading over my shoulder. "The board won't see this until they're already in the presentation room." I smiled faintly. Marcus always said timing was everything in business. My phone lit up again. A message from James in Quantum Systems. "They're doing final tests. Nothing works. Marcus just fired 3 developers for incompetence. Half the team walked out. Catherine checked her watch. Speaking of timing, are you ready? I stood, smoothing my dress. Let's go change the future of quantum computing. The drive to Meridian's headquarters was surreal. Security didn't stop us. Catherine Zhang was too well known in the industry to be questioned. We took the elevator to the executive floor, where nervous employees scattered at the sight of me. Through the glass walls of the main conference room, I could see them setting up. Marcus paced like a caged animal, barking orders at terrified techs. Board members filed in, followed by investors and journalists. The tension was thick enough to cut. Dr. Morgan. I turned to find Robert Wells, Meridian's CEO, standing behind me. His face was grave. You've created quite a situation, he said quietly. No, I corrected him. Marcus created this situation. I just refuse to be erased. He nodded slowly. The board has questions. Many questions. I'm sure they do. Especially about the 100 million in pre-orders Meridian accepted for technology they don't actually own. Robert's jaw tightened. What do you want? To watch, I said simply, gesturing to the conference room. Then we'll talk. The presentation began exactly at 10 a.m. Marcus took the podium, his confidence clearly forced. I settled into a seat at the back, Catherine beside me, and watched the disaster unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, today we unveil the future of quantum encryption. For 10 minutes, he managed to maintain the illusion, showing slides, quoting statistics, promising revolution. Then came the demonstration. The system started up smoothly enough. The basic interface I designed was functioning. But as soon as they tried to initiate the quantum encryption protocols, everything fell apart. Screens flickered. Error messages flashed. The quantum states collapsed almost immediately. Minor technical difficulty, Marcus stammered, his forehead shining with sweat. If we could just... Mr. Sterling, a board member interrupted. Is this related to the patent dispute mentioned in this morning's news? Marcus froze. Across the room, faces bent over phones and tablets, reading the just-published article. The patent situation is being handled. He tried, but his voice had lost all authority. Is it? Another board member stood. Because according to this, we don't own the core technology. We've taken millions in pre-orders for a system we can't legally sell. The room erupted in chaos. Investors stood, demanding explanations. Journalists typed frantically on their phones. Marcus looked like he might faint. That's when Robert Wells stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if I could have your attention. The room quieted slightly. It's true that we've encountered some complications with Aurora. However, we have someone here who might be able to shed light on the situation. He turned to the back of the room. Dr. Morgan? I stood, feeling every eye in the room turn to me. Marcus's face went from red to white in an instant. The system you're trying to demonstrate, I said clearly, is failing because it lacks the master key, an encryption protocol that links the quantum states and stabilizes the entire architecture. Without it, Aurora is just an expensive random number generator. And where is this master key? A board member demanded. I tapped my temple. Right here, along with every detail of how Aurora really works, details that are now legally protected under my patent. Marcus finally found his voice. This is absurd. She developed this technology while working for Meridian. It belongs to the company. Actually, Catherine spoke up. Dr. Morgan can prove she developed the core technology independently, on her own time. The patent office already confirmed this. That's why they rejected your challenge. More importantly, I added, I've accepted a position as Chief Technology Officer at Quantum Dynamics, where we'll be developing Aurora's true potential. In fact, I pulled out my phone, pressed a few buttons. On the main screen, Aurora's interface suddenly stabilized, quantum states aligning perfectly. That's what Aurora looks like when it's properly implemented. Of course, this is just a demonstration. The full system launches next quarter, under my patent, through Quantum Dynamics. The silence was absolute. Then, like a dam breaking, the questions flooded in. Investors demanded their money back from Meridian. Journalists shouted questions about the patent and my new role. Board members called for emergency sessions. And Marcus? He simply collapsed into a chair, finally understanding how completely he'd been outmaneuvered. Robert Wells approached me as the room dissolved into chaos. "You planned this entire thing," he said. It wasn't a question. "Marcus taught me well," I replied. "Always think 3 moves ahead. What's your real play here?" I looked at him steadily. Aurora was never meant to be just another corporate asset. It's a breakthrough that could revolutionize digital security. Now it'll be developed properly, not rushed to market for quick profits. He nodded slowly. "And Marcus?" "I hear the board is calling for a vote of no confidence. Apparently, they don't appreciate executives who get the company sued for patent infringement." 3 hours later, I sat in my new office at Quantum Dynamics, watching Meridian's stock price fall for the 6th straight hour. Maria and James had already accepted positions on my team, along with most of the original Aurora developers. We'd start fresh on Monday, building something revolutionary. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Marcus. "You destroyed everything I built." I typed back, "No, Marcus, you did that yourself. I just refuse to let you destroy what I built." Then I turned off my phone and looked out at the city skyline. Tomorrow, we begin the real work of advancing quantum computing. But today was for savoring the quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice comes in the form of elegant code and carefully filed patents. Catherine appeared in my doorway, champagne and glasses in hand. "To new beginnings?" she offered. I smiled, feeling the weight of the past 5 years finally lift. To building something that matters. As we toasted, I thought about all the other brilliant minds out there, silenced by corporate politics, pushed aside by managers who valued control over innovation. Maybe my story would show them that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. 3 months later, Aurora launched officially through Quantum Dynamics. The system revolutionized quantum encryption exactly as I'd envisioned. Meridian eventually recovered, though Marcus never did. Last I heard, he was consulting for startups, none of which seemed to last long. My patent hangs on my office wall now, next to a framed copy of that fateful news article. They serve as reminders that true innovation can't be contained by corporate boundaries or stolen by opportunistic managers. Sometimes, when new employees ask about the patent, I tell them this story, not to gloat, but to teach them something essential. Your greatest power isn't in what you create. It's in knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone take it from you. And that's a lesson worth more than any patent.